In this short video, we will take a brief look at each of the 4 modes that Hoverfly services can run in and understand when you would use each one. So when you start up a Hoverfly service, it can run in one of 4 modes, which are simulate, capture, spy, and pass-through. In the short video, we'll take a brief look at each of these modes and understand when you would use them. So let's start with capture. And the reason we will start with capture is because we might want to record a real live API so that we can build up some data about how it behaves so that we can run it as a simulation in simulate mode. Now, there are other ways to create a simulation. You can use the built-in editor, or you can upload a Swagger file, and Hoverfly Cloud will convert that into an API simulation for you. But because we are discussing the various modes today, I'm going to show you how to get started by recording the traffic to a real API with capture mode. To demonstrate this, I'll be using a simple weather API from OpenWeather, which I have subscribed to through Rapid API, which is an API marketplace. And I'll just pop the URL in there. We're going to make a call to Rapid API, which is going to itself proxy that onto the real API, the weather API for the City of London in English. Hopefully that works. Right, so we know that's working. For us to make an API simulation out of that weather API, we could go into the simulation editor and manually configure a new simulation. We could add endpoints and build up a simulation in that way. But this isn't what we're going to do today. We're going to record the actual simulation. So to do that, I'm going to start up a service. I'm going to give it a name, my the sim, and you can see it's prefixing my namespace in hoverfly.io here to give me a unique URL, which we can use later as our API simulation. Because we are going to be capturing, we need to proxy to the real service, which is over there. And you can see here, at this point, we don't want anything to do with paths or queries. We just need the base URL and a port if necessary. And we're going to put this into capture mode. When I click confirm, it's going to start the service and it will be in capture mode, which means it's going to be acting as a proxy to the real weather API. So any traffic I send to this URL is going to get forwarded on, response is going to be returned. But because it's in capture mode, it's going to record everything and it's going to record it into the simulation. There's nothing in here, obviously, at the moment because we haven't sent it any traffic. But let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to take the URL that Hoverfly Cloud gave us. I'm going to put it in here to replace this actual API URL. Make the same call again for the City of London in English. This time it's going via Hoverfly, and it's come back already. So now if I refresh this, we'll see it's recorded a get for a path with an exact match of the City of London in English. And this is now being configured as a request matcher. What a request matcher does is in the future, when we change the mode from capture to simulate, it will be able to pattern match on these various rules and decide that if it sees the City of London in English on a path and it's an exact match, then it must send back this response. And here's the JSON response being recorded, which is exactly what we got back from Postman. It does have a lot of headers in here, but that's also because it's going via Rapid API, which is putting on its own headers. So we can manipulate these as we need to. Okay, so we've got one request matcher configured, one request response pair configured by capturing using capture mode. I could do this again. I could change this to, let's say, Paris. Get the weather for Paris. Again, it's going to have gone through our simulation, so I can refresh this and you can see I've got now Paris as well. And it will have recorded everything, including the response for the weather in Paris. And let's do one more. Let's do this for New York. And we can see it's a nice day in New York. That would have been recorded into our simulation as well as another pair of request response pairs. Right, so we've got our simulation, and that is capture mode. It's allowed us to record the real traffic going in and coming out of the API and converted it into a Hoverfly simulation for us. And this can be very useful if you need to create a simulation from an existing API for which you might not have documentation. If you have an application with an automated test suite that you can configure to point at Hoverfly services running in this capture mode instead of the real APIs, you can literally create a full simulation that covers all your test cases by just running through your automation suite. So it really accelerates getting started. Now, as I mentioned earlier, there are other ways to create simulations. You can upload a Swagger document to get started, or you can handcraft them from scratch using the simulation editor. But that's a video for another day. So this is capture mode. Next, we will look at simulate mode. I've got this service running here, my weather sim. It's in capture mode still. I can switch it over to simulate mode now. So let's do that, simulate mode. Now what this is going to do is change the behavior of the Hoverfly so that there is no more proxying. It's going to respond when I call it itself. It's not going to pass any requests through to the real weather service. So I'll do this again for New York here. And it's done, giving me the exact same response. I can do Paris or London. And it will give me the weather for Paris as it had it recorded. If I put something in here which it doesn't know about, let's say Cape Town, it's going to throw an error because it can't match. It doesn't have a record for Cape Town. So this is in simulate mode now, and it's trying to play back whatever it can. It knows about London, Paris, and New York. It doesn't know about Cape Town, so it falls over. Of course, there are ways to deal with that. And there's a lot you can do with the editor. I could make this a wildcard match and say, instead of London, we'll have a match on anything. We could apply that change. And if I sent this again now, it should come back with London's weather when I ask it for Cape Town's weather because of what I've done here. But the point here is rather to show you that in simulate mode, it's going to respond with what it knows about. It's not going to proxy on to the back anymore. I'll just change this back again to make it an exact match. This is what we had before. And now I want to show you spy mode, a different mode. So this should now fail again because I've set it back to what it was, Cape Town. In spy mode, it will try to simulate. It'll use its logic to look for a corresponding response based on the request that gets sent through. If it can find one within its storage, it'll respond with what it's got recorded. If it can't find one, it will pass the request all the way back to the real service and return with that response. So if we look now for the city of Cape Town weather, it should get the actual weather from the real service because it's in spy mode. The other ones will still respond without going to the real backend. And that's spy mode. That's what that is for. The last mode is pass-through mode. Pass-through mode, Hoverfly is going to ignore the request completely. It's not going to try and respond with its own stored responses. Everything is going to go through to the back end. So every time I click it now, it's going to fetch the actual response from the actual API. And in effect, I've turned off Hoverfly. And that has its uses as well. So those are the various modes. Capture when you need to record a simulation, simulate when you need to simulate or play back what you've recorded, spy to simulate it as well, but also to pass through to the real service if the service is not able to satisfy the request, and pass throughs to literally pass every request through to the back end. So all of these modes can be set through this front end. They can also, if I look at the CLI, this is the Hoverfly Cloud CLI, you can control everything from here as well. So I could change the mode. What's it in now? It's in simulate mode, so we'll change it to capture mode. And if I refresh here, you'll see it's now in capture mode. So everything can be controlled from your CLI as well, and through the API if need be. And that is it for modes. I hope this made sense.